Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the 15th Safety GALA, Rethinking Safety, Reassessing, Redesigning, Reshaping. Today, we've reached more than 900 participants from more than 50 countries, from 4 different continents, making this conference a truly international one. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to hear very rich insights on some very challenging health and safety issues of our times, such as achieving safety maturity, technological innovations to improve health and safety, digitalization and AI implications challenging us, managing workplace challenges, safety, an element of sustainability, a new era. We were delighted by our speakers for sharing their valuable insights and expertise with us, as well as the discussions that took place. Yesterday, more than 35 questions were answered through the sessions. Exquisite speakers will cover 4 sessions of today's schedule. Our first session is about preparedness, emergency response and operational continuity. The second session covers advancements in safety management systems. The third session informs about intelligent safety risks prediction. And the fourth session is about issues arising related to the recent earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, followed by a roundtable which will cover the subject from design to operation and the safety challenges. Additionally, we will also have 2 parallel sessions of Bulgaria and OSH Africa. Once again, we would like to thank our speakers, moderators, and collaborators. We appreciate the time and effort you have put into preparing for this event and sharing your insights with us. Your passion for this important work is evident in the quality of your presentation and the depth of your knowledge. We're thrilled to have you all here today for this second day. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired and informed. We're looking forward to an engaging and enlightening event. I now give the floor to our first session's moderator, Mr. Michael Halaris. Mr. Halaris, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you for the morning session 6 entitled Preparedness, Emergency Response and Operational Continuity at the second day of the 15th Safety GALA. Before I give the floor to our 2 distinguished speakers, let me make an introductory presentation. Preparedness, emergency response, and operational continuity are critical aspects of any organization's ability to effectively manage crises and disasters. I will comment on some of the most important things to consider for each of these areas. Organizations should identify potential risks and hazards that may affect their operations and prepare accordingly. Developing and regularly updating emergency plans, including procedures for evacuation, communication, and emergency response. Employees should be trained and regularly drilled on emergency procedures to ensure they are ready to respond quickly and effectively in a crisis. And finally, ensuring that the organization has the necessary resources such as medical supplies, communication, equipment, and backup power to respond to an emergency. Effective coordination and leadership are essential during an emergency to ensure that resources are deployed appropriately and decision-making is timely and effective. Effective communication is crucial during an emergency to ensure all stakeholders are informed and coordinating in their response. Quick and effective decision-making is essential during an emergency to ensure that the response is well coordinated and appropriate for the situation. Allocating resources, including personnel and equipment, in a strategic and effective manner to address the emergency. Finally, the ability to quickly adapt to changing circumstances and make adjustments to the response plan as needed is critical. Ensuring the safety and security of everyone involved is a top priority during an emergency. Developing plans and procedures to ensure that critical business operation can continue during and after an emergency. Planning for the recovery of critical systems and data in the event of disruption. Building redundancy into critical systems and having backup systems in place to ensure operational continuity, and at least continually testing and reviewing plans and procedures to ensure that they remain and up to date. Overall, effective preparedness, emergency response, and operational continuity require a comprehensive and integrated approach that involves risk assessment, planning, training, communication, coordination, leadership, safety and security, and resource management. Before I pass the floor to first speaker, I would like to invite you to be active in our morning session. I know it's a little bit difficult without black coffee, but okay. I would like to invite you to be active and ask questions by the informed procedure. Please put your questions in the chat, and then I share this question to the speakers. Our first speaker is Mrs. Ilya Bardani. Mrs. Ilya Bardani is Managing Director of EH, Environmental Health Safety, Quality and Development SMEs. She is Mining and Metallurgy Engineering from NTUA. He has a great experience in his field. He's working managing in AHSQ and sustainable development project at several companies across the world. Long professional experience in workplace safety and environmental health and safety. She's certified auditor for ISO 9001, 14001, and 45001. And of course, she is very skilled in project management, health and safety training, and coaching. Today, he will present the paper entitled Emergency Preparedness and Response in order to effectively manage the environmental health safety risk. Please, Mrs. Bardani, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Halleis. Thank you, Management Force, for this invitation. And I hope this session would be as successful as last day sections. That was truly a big success. Let me share my presentation. So let's talk something that's very interesting, and it is very interesting for all kinds of companies. It is not only for big companies in industries that has to do with plants and mines and places that have a lot of critical and risky issues. But also it is important even for buildings and even for offices. It is not something that the emergency preparedness and the response has to do with only with big companies. That's why it is so important. It is also important to have such scenarios in order to be ready for any emergency that might happen, also in schools, in kindergartens, in places wherever we are, because the emergency is something that will happen and can happen everywhere. As Mr. Haller said before, emergencies can happen in every company and organization. It can be everything. It can be a fire, can be a flood, can be explosion, earthquake. Here in Greece and Turkey, we have faced a lot of issues about earthquakes. And also it can be an incident or an accident that needs to take extra caution, and it has to do with a lot of people. An emergency treatment plan needs to be formulated before, in order to be ready and in order to know what to do and who to do, who to do what, based on a relevant risk assessment. And all the people that they will be participating in this emergency plan should be properly trained, because if you want to treat an emergency without having the properly training, then probably will not be as successful as if we have the proper training before. And when we're talking about training, we don't talk only about having procedures and having the emergency plan and having things written, because this is one thing. It is important to know all exactly what we have to do. But we're talking about emergency drills, because in the drills, it is the best way to verify the effectiveness of the plans. And also the ability of the personnel to act according to the emergency treatment plans. In the drills, we can have a lot of important, let's say, we know exactly what will happen, and to see any default that might the plans have, and we have not thought about it. In the past, in many companies that I have been collaborating with, we have faced a lot of issues during the drills, and that was good. And probably somebody will tell me now why it is good to have problems during a drill. If we have a problem during the drill, we will have the time to correct it and to find the best way. So when we have a real situation, a real crisis management, then the things will be treated in the best way. So it is important to have drills with problems and to find the proper solution than to face the problems during the reality. And let's see, when we're talking about emergency drills, and let's see the first thing about evacuation of a building, of a school, of everything. Evacuation also, it is something that we should do here in Greece based to the legislation. It is something that all companies have to prepare to perform an emergency drill, an emergency evacuation, in order to see if everybody know exactly what they should do during that time. Okay, let's have an interesting video showing the right way and the wrong way to do a navigation.
What's that? It's a fire alarm! Come on, everything together, come on, get over together, come on.
Very straight, very straight.
Come on, get over together, everything together, come on, quiet, come on. Quiet.
Well, we're all glad the kindergarten class could join us.
So in that way,
All
it
play
was.
together.
We want to show you in a fun way, it is from a movie, what can go wrong or what should be done during a vacation of a building. The background can be a building vacation due to an earthquake, during a fire, because of a terrorist attack, a flood, whatever it needed in order for us to have to evacuate the building. The building can be an office, it can be a plant, can be a school, can be whatever it is. Here we have, let's say, as a scenario, that an earthquake takes place. I hope not. So the vacation and the fire team, and first of all, we have to have an evacuation and the fire team inside in our premises. This team should be properly trained in advance, and they should have taken training from the fire academy in order to know exactly how to deal this kind of situation. It is part of the Greek legislation. Who will participate in this fire team, how many people there should be, and what is the proper training for them. So let's say we have all these things. We have the fire team inside our company. So what it is, what they should do? They should guide the personnel to safely evacuate the building, first of all. After that, we have to take a head count when we go to the assembly point. And to call the fire brigade, inform them about any people trapped inside the building. That's why we have to have the head count. And of course, the personnel should safely evacuate the building in a proper way, in a calm way, and not running, not screaming, not doing exactly what the kids in the previous movie was not doing. And also to be gathered at a predefined assembly point. And most important, in case of an emergency, they should go outside the building and not stay inside taking pictures for the social media. Don't post issues that, okay, we have a fire situation in our building, or we have an evacuation plan right now, or an earthquake is taking place. It is important that they should go outside as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we have seen and faced lately a lot of people with performing a lot in the social, and they want to have everything live. The most important thing here is to stay live, not to be live in a social media. So for that reason, evacuating the building in the proper way, it is so important. We have faced some issues in previous years when we're doing a evacuation of a building. And that was the good thing that I have told you before. During the drills, you have problems and not face them when you have a real case scenario. Let's say one thing, and the most common issue is that some people don't know where is the assembly point. They have no idea that they have an assembly point in their area. They have no idea how it looks like, that there is a specific let's say sign that it is an assembly point with the arrows and the group of people inside, green and white. And they have no idea that they should go there and why to go there. They think that, okay, if we go outside the building, it is as good as to go to the assembly point. But it's not the case, because if you're not in the assembly point and you're going around the building, then the team, the fire evacuation team of your company cannot properly do the head count. So what they will face that when they know that inside the building they have, let's say, 20 people, and they do the head count, the assembly point, and then they have only 10 people. They will think that the rest of the 10 people that don't find during the head count, they are trapped inside the building. So when the fire brigade will come in order either to help with a fire, with earthquake, whatever, they will have first to try to find these 10 people that it sounds that they are trapped inside the building, and they won't do something else before find them. So it's a pity that these 10 people going around and be safe outside, and having the fire brigade trying to find them inside the building trapped. That's why it is so important to follow the rules of the evacuation, because yes, it is important to go out, but also it is important to follow the rules and go wherever it should be in order to be all together. Also, it is important not to try to find your stuff and lose time inside the building. Even if you know that it isn't a drill, the drills should be counted and see how long it would take for everybody to go outside the building and how long it will take to do the head count. So as to know if you have the proper time to evacuate the area in the real case. So if you are inside the building and you try to find your purse, you want to close your computer, or you want to take your laptop with you, then you lose a lot of valuable time. And if you have a real scenario, probably you won't have that time. So treat yourself and treat the emergency drill as to be a real case scenario and not just a training session. Because in that way, we will have the proper timing, the proper measuring, and we will take the proper understanding how things will go and what we want to change if something is wrong. Also, during the evacuation, it is not the time that you will just leave the company or leave the school or leave the building. During the emergency drill, the fire team, the evacuation team will tell you if you have to leave the place and when you have to leave the place. So it is not up to us to decide that, okay, we did the evacuation, we have done the drill, let's go home now. No, it's not that case. And this is important to do these drills during the year in order, and every year, and to repeat them, because new people coming to the building, the plant, to the office, into the school, and probably they don't know the procedure, but also to remind us what they should do in the proper way to of such scenario. Also, during the evacuation, we will find ourselves to see if we know where is the emergency exits. For example, we cannot take an elevator if we are in the 4th or the 5th floor of a building in order to go fastly down, because during a real case scenario, we cannot take an elevator. Because first of all, if we have an emergency cut of the electricity, then you will be blocked inside the elevator and not be saved. And for many, many other reasons, in case of fire, in case of flood, we cannot use an elevator. So we have to act exactly as it was a real case. One thing that it is a big discussion during evacuating the buildings. It is also what to do if somebody is hurted in advance. I mean, if he has already a problem and cannot go down the stairs and needs to take the elevator. That was always a case. That, for example, if somebody has broken his leg and he's back in the office, but he cannot move as fast, and of course, he cannot go down the stairs. This is a way that a lot of companies are thinking different other ways to have for these people. For example, one company decided that if somebody has a problem with kinetic, cannot move so fast, it is a good idea to be in the ground floor and not to be in the upper floors if that is possible. In order to be safe and to evacuate safely also the place. So building evacuation, even if it is something that some people say, okay, let's just lose 3 minutes of our time, especially if it's good weather and we can go out without raining, and just do the evacuation because law says so. Yes, the law says so, but it's so important because when it will need it to be truly done, then you will understand how important was this 3 minutes of your time during the year. So let's move to another scenario. The scenario for fire. The fire can be not only the evacuation of the building, as it was said before, because this is an issue, but also it is a scenario mostly for the fire team to see how they will treat themselves and what they have to do in a case of fire. Because at this time, it is not only to take out the people, to evacuate the building, to count them, etc., but also it is that they will help with to extinguish small fires, because the fire team of a company, it is not trained to be fire brigades. They are not trained to do the job that the people that they have been in the fire department they will do, but they can put down a small fire. I mean, if you have something very, very small in from a cigarette, for example, in a basket of full of papers next to your office, and you now they cannot smoke inside the offices, but okay, even in a way, you will start a small fire next to you, and you are trained to use a fire extinguisher. Then in that way, you can help and put down the fire before being a big issue. But these people, the fire team and the evacuation team of the companies, they should know how to use the fire extinguishers, how to do the alert, how to treat in a bigger fires, and how to help the fire brigades with their work. So it is important for this team of people, not only this group of people, but especially for them, to do a repeated once per year at least training together with an emergency drill about fire. And let's see a video for such a training and an emergency drill that has been performed in Imeris, Greece, in Milos, with the help of Mr. Halaris and the collaboration of my company, HSQ Development. And in this case, I would like to thank Imeris Greece for letting me use this video, and that we were taken from Mr. Nikos Liakakos. After the fire, let's go to something different. The emergency drill scenarios that has to do with first aid. The provision of first aid is also something that we should know, or not only for during the time that we are in the office, in the plant, in our work, but also for our personal life. The fire, it is also something that we should know about when we are at home and how to treat a fire at home. But this is another issue. This is not for today, let's say, speech. But the provision of first aid, it is something that everybody should know. We can save the life of somebody working next to us. We can save the life of somebody, a member of our family. We can save also a person that we don't know. And it is important to give a first aid, even to people that we don't know. Because now it is us that we save somebody, and sometimes in the future, maybe somebody else should give first aid to us. So never pass away somebody that needs a first aid. Here the drills, it is part of a trainings. What we do, like HSQ development together with our trainer, Dr. Dimitris Nicolaou, that you see also in the pictures, it is that we want to train the people how to perform first aid in many different instances. It is not only to prepare people to know how to perform a kappa that you will see in the pictures, or a Heimlich movement in order for people choking to help them. But it is also to deal with specific issues that might happen in a company and that needs a specific way to treat them. And what we do with emergency drills, we want to see, do they know what to do? Okay, they have been trained to perform all these first aids, but can they do it when it is needed? Do they have the specific, let's say, medical instruments with them? Do they can do what they have trained? Because, sometimes it is easy to hear them. You say, okay, I have done a first aid session. Good, I know what to do. But when you deal with blood, when you might see somebody get hurted, and then things are not so easy. You can see that probably you are not the right person to perform first aid. But yes, you can perform first aid doing other things. It is not only to go there and to treat the person that it is hurted, but it is also to call, let's say, the emergency, or to call the doctor, to call the ambulance. This is also first aid. So don't have in your minds that first aid has to do only with CARPA. Most of the people, that's what they think, or to stop a bleeding, or to take care that somebody that has an accident somewhere. Scenarios that we can have for during first aid, and we do that. It is incidents that can happen during a traffic accident, and we're not talking about traffic accident in the highway. We're talking about a traffic accident in the yard of your plant, outside your office or outside your building, or something to do the people that work inside your company, and they have big trucks or forklifts, and they might also be pedestrians, and also to have the combination of all this traffic inside your company. And you might have a traffic accident there, and how to deal with that. Especially what we have done, it is to see what we will do with traffic accident and combination of our employees, the employees of the company that did the emergency drill, together with our people outside the building that was civilians, not part of the company. And they have a traffic accident. And then you have to deal with the people inside the company, but also to treat and help the civilians that were outside. And we have incidents in confined spaces. This is a big issue, and you have always to have in mind that if you have confined space in your territory, you have to treat them in a very specific way, and you have to do specific emergency drills for that. To have specific PPEs and to do it in the proper way, entering inside a confined space. Just to remind you, always two people, always, never a person alone, always the one to be outside the confined space and never going inside, even if he thinks that something is wrong for the other people inside, without using the proper PPE. Because what will happen, it is if you go inside the second person to help the first one, probably instead of one injured person, we're going to have 2 and 3 and 4. And if we have also gas inside this confined space, this can be ended in a very, very bad way. And we have faced such incidents in Greece and outside Greece many times. Huge. You have to take huge importance. If you have confined space in your place, just have in mind to have a special plan about this and to do a very special drill about confined space. About electricity. This is something that in most companies they will face, and they should do a drill, a first aid drill, how they will treat if somebody has an electrocution incident. It is not the same way that you will treat somebody that it is from a traffic accident hurted. And you have to have also the proper ways to do it and the proper tools to do it. And we have trained and to see, do you know what to do if you see somebody just sitting on the floor and don't know if she has an electrocution incident? Because also this kind of incidents can be ended up in a multiple way incident if we don't treat it in the proper way. They're one after the other and getting a lot of people injured. So for that way, the emergency drill and the first aid drill should be taking places in the companies that they have electricity, in most of companies. Slip, trip, and fall, and how they deal in this case, a broken leg, how they will treat that if you have that to happen in a mountain. You say, okay, company in a mountain. Yes, I'm a man engineer, and we know that a lot of things can happen, wrong things can happen in the mountains. Also, if you're just alone, if you're a geologist or you are a survey engineer, you're going outside to do some measurements, and then you slip and trip and fall. How they will deal with other people and to do the first aid to you until you go somewhere that it can be properly treated. So it is not just falling down from a stair. That can be also very crucial. I mean, sometimes in offices, when we're talking about falling from stairs, I have a lot of young people laughing and say, okay, why it's so important to do a drill about falling from stairs? Because falling from stairs can be very critical if you fall in the wrong way, and if you are hurted in places that can be very dangerous for your life. And you can see people now going down the stairs holding their laptops in their hands, or even worse, having their laptops and their cell phone in their hand, or even worse, laptop, cell phone, and talking or messaging or going live from your cell phone. So really, you don't have a hand to hold yourself and to hold the handrail in order not to fall from a stair. So it is a common thing that can happen, and to know how to treat these people and which first aid they should give to these people, it is important, not only for big companies or plants or let's say heavy industry, but also for offices having just stairs. And here I put something that can tell me, okay, in Athens we don't have snakes, and in big cities we don't have snakes. I thought so. And I was thinking that, okay, probably the snake bite incident, it is something that will happen only in areas that they are outside, in the mountains, or if you do a rehabilitation, a minor rehabilitation, or you do something outside the big cities. And recently I've heard that in a big town here in Greece, in the yard of the kindergarten, they have seen a snake. And I said, okay, probably a snake bite emergency drill or a snake emergency should be also included in these, let's say, scenarios of provision of first aid. Because people of my age, not the younger ones. We have seen a lot of movies, like, let's say, MacGyver or Indiana Jones, that we know that, okay, Harrison Ford in Indy just take the poison from a snake bite, just by doing, taking a knife out and cutting the area and take the poison out. Okay, you're going to lose this person from bleeding, not from the snake bite. So no, it is not that case. We're not MacGyvers, we're not Indiana Jones, we're not a superhero that will treat the snake bite like this. And okay, I'm sorry for the youngest that probably they don't know what I'm talking about, but people of my age, they will understand correctly. And okay, snake bites should be treated in a very specific way. And you have to have that in your mind in this case. And you have to have done an emergency drill about this. And you should have a first aid treatment and to see, do you know what to do? Do you know what things you should use in order to stop the poison to go to circulate inside your blood? Because if you do it in a wrong way, you might lose a person. If you do it in the right way, it will be easy, and you will gonna have the time to go to the medical area or somewhere that a doctor can give the proper training and the proper medicines. And as I told you in the end, first aid it is not only to treat somebody, it is also to know what else you can do in order to help in this procedure for first aid. Let's say to call the 112 for European countries, not for UK. I don't know if we have a person from UK, but in this case, it is not 112. I think it is 991. Right. I think so, yes. But in each country, we have a lot of emergency phone numbers, but this is the pan-European phone number for emergency, any kind of emergency. If it's a fire, it is, you need an ambulance for first aid, if you have an incident in the sea, whatever. Just call them, tell them, and you should learn how to and what to tell in the phone, because just to say we have an emergency and just close the phone. Okay, if it's 112, they can find you. They can find you through satellites and everything. But if it's not 112 and it is another phone number, probably they don't know what to do because, okay, you have an emergency. What? What kind of emergency? Where are you? Who are you? You should know how to talk to the people so as to give you the proper first aid, the proper help in order to give the first aid. So also this, it is apart from emergency drill to say, do you know what to say? Do you know how to inform these people that you need help? And after the first aid, let's go also to another kind of emergency drill, that it is working on height. Many companies have different, let's say, working height. Maintenance people mostly, but also some other people doing specific job in height. The drills that we have performed, it was with the help of somebody that he knew very well how to work on height. It is not something that you can just learn it by papers and just to do a training by computer. Why not? I mean, right now we do so many trainings on computer, yes. But these people, they should understand what they should do in case that they have an incident in height. And the scenario, it is that they should be trained on probably wearing and using the safety equipment. And it is important to feel that and to know and to understand that the PPE, this belt, it will save their lives if something has happened. So this kind of emergency drills, it is good to have something, let's say, bungee jumping, to have something to have the people falling from high and to feel safe and secure with their own PPE. In that way, they will always wear them. They will never forget to put the belt if they have seen that, okay, I have put my belt and I have properly gone down to the ground. If that they have faced that during a drill, in their everyday job, I don't think that they will forget to wear this very important belt PPE. So also they demonstrate their skills and properly using this equipment in order to performing the working on height, safely descending back to the ground if an accident occurs. Okay, I'll just go very fast. Having that in mind, emergency drills, it is also to make people feel safe with what they're wearing, with their PPEs, and also to feel very that they can treat other people in the right way whenever an emergency happens. So here, one of my last scenarios, it is something that also took place in Milos 2 years ago in Milos, Greece. And together with Agency Development, we have created a scenario of a truck driver that it is that we have in Milos and in Milos, Greece, they have a lot of transport trucks carrying large volume of cargo of material of the donated perlite, and they have a risk of overturning. So the scenario of this train was a truck carrying raw material overturns due to the load shifting inside the truck, and the truck has fallen on the driver's side, trapping him inside. So it is not easy for the truck driver to go and to leave from outside the truck. Simultaneously, in order to make it even worse, the situation, the scenario was said that oil spill was formed due to the fall. So we have to deal also a second emergency here. We have an emergency for the truck driver inside the truck trapped, and we have also an environmental emergency. So let's have also in our minds that an emergency and the emergency drills, okay, now we're talking about health and safety, and the whole seminar is about health and safety, but also keep in your mind that you have to have emergency drills also for environmental reasons, especially the ones that you have ISO 40001, the environmental ISOs. Keep in your minds that emergency drills also they should be done about the environment. But here it can be a real case scenario to have somebody trapped, to have oil spill. Simultaneously, we might have some small fires that can be started inside the truck or outside the truck. And okay, what to treat first, and how fast you can do all these things. The emergency treatment team was called. The local fire brigade, they don't have in Melos a fire brigade. So it is a volunteer team, a Melos volunteer team that came to help, and also the health center. As I told you before, the danger of fire, the explosion, and the driver needed to safely extract it from the truck, to give him the first aid, and to get safely transported to the local health center. So here we're dealing three things, and it is first the truck driver, second oil spillage, and then fire. And I won't talk. I will just show you the drill by a video. And as I told you all this time, the true education consists more in practice than in lecture. That was not mine. This is written in the email from Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And I think the emergency drills is exactly that. The best way to get trained and to be ready to face any kind of incident is to have drills and to see exactly what you have to do in practice, not just in lecture. So this is all about what we have to discuss today. Thank you for your time. And I will take any questions afterwards, I believe, Mr. Haller is right.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mrs. Bardami, and of course for very interesting content of this presentation. We look forward to questions from our audience. They will be answered by the two speakers at the end of the session. And now the next speaker in our session is Dr. Wagner Peter, will present the work entitled Development a Roadmap for International Fire Statistics. Mr. Wagner is now the head of the Center of Fire Statistics of CTIF. For these persons who don't know what means CTIF, is a very prestigious international organization with participants, fire services, governmental fire services from all over the world, and companies, enterprises, which activated in the field of fire, prevention, distinguish, and so on. He has a career to Berlin Fire Brigade as a fire and safety engineer from 1982 until now. I think, Peter, this is the last year as firefighter for you. He's a doctor of technical sciences. He's a member of the German Fire Protection Association since 1991, and since 1995 is a member of the committee of CTIF statistics, and I know very well in the team's work of Mr. Wagner. He working with patients in the field of fire statistics. Please, Peter, the floor is yours to present development roadmap for international fire statistics. And one more time, we will look forward to questions from the audience, please. Peter, the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning from Berlin. My name is Peter Wagner. I like to share today some experiences of my association, the CTF, regarding fire statistics. Now I will share my screen to you. First question is, can everybody see my screen now? Yes? Okay, thank you. Okay, then we go forward. First of all, I like to say some words about what CTIF is. CTIF is an international organization for the fire services and the rescue services, was founded more than 100 years ago. And this organization survived many political and historical situations in the world. You can see that on the slide. Currently, we have 40 member states, including Canada, the United States, and Japan, most members coming from Europe. This organization has a simple scheme of organizations, including different commissions working on different items. You can see that I will name some of the most important for this time as a commission, for example, for women in fire and rescue services, firefighting in airports, volunteer firefighting commissions, the prevention commission, it means fire prevention, history commission, and the last one is the Center of Fire Statistics. And this center, we collecting over the last 22 years international data about fires, about rescue services, the activities of the fire brigades. And all over the time, one most important questions are raised among all the people helping us to create this statistics. Why we need international fire statistics? Maybe the answer is very simple. Maybe the answer can be difficult. We are living now in a society sharing information. This century is the information century. The area of Google and other systems is very quick in the development. And we are searching in this society answers about what fire safety is, what we can do to have better conditions. And therefore, we should know what are the most common causes of the fire when fires occurs, where fires occurs, what are the most possible reasons for the fires, how many people are dying in the fires, why in some countries we have so many many fires, why we have in some countries a low number of fires, what are the reasons, what are the differences between fires and other rescue activities of the fire brigades, what is the most what are the most dangerous factors from the fires, and how we can compare the situation with fires in the countries around the world. When we look into the data collected by the Center of Fire Statistics since 1995, we can see we have a lot of information, starting with the big countries like India, USA, Russia, Japan, Vietnam, Germany, and so on. And there we have now a picture that we know the number of the fires in these countries, and we know the number of the fire deaths. But sometimes the question arises how we can compare this data without any difficulties, because the data collection system in every country may differ. Since we started collecting the international fire data, we are creating some kind of research programs. And as a result, we receive information to build up pictures like you can see on that slide. On the left side, you can see the development of the number of the fire deaths in some countries like USA, Russia, India, and China, Japan, and Germany. So we were able to collect and build the reconstruction of this development within the last decades. Here we can see the development over the last 50 years. And on the right side, you can see a picture, I think that is a very unique picture. We developed a mathematical model for the reconstruction of the fire situation on Earth, beginning at the point 0 when the human race appears on this planet, reconstructing the fire situation for the last 2000 years and giving a forecast for the next 2 centuries. Maybe we are wrong with this prognosis, but we are sure that this is a way we can discuss with other experts how to develop this idea further. And we are, as always, open for discussion to see how we can create a better fire statistics for all countries in the world. In this year, we started the request on the members of the CTF regarding the fire causes. I show you shortly some examples here. These are the data from Greece, then the data from Japan, the Czech Republic, from the smaller island Fiji in the far away from us, from Bulgaria, and from the Ukraine. And as you can imagine, the first question raised here is what are the definitions behind the data? And this is in real one of the major problems we face now, because we can collect the data, but it is not so easy to compare the data, because in every country, maybe some local conditions, some local standards and laws talking one thing. And when you try to compare this data with the figures from other countries, it may be complicated. But we received the question to create an overview about the fire causes, and we hope after the finish of our project in this year that we can give new answer. And what we are doing is now we creating some ideas for a roadmap of international fire statistics. And first of all, it is necessary to have a clear picture who are the users of the fire statistics. Of course, the fire services are one of the most important users, because in the most of the countries, the fire statistics should deliver statistical data to the higher administration and fighting for their budget. Then the medias are very interested in data, and you can imagine when you hear the news, the latest news about a high-rise fire in a country, then questions arise. How many fires of this kind are there? How many victims are there? What are the reasons, etc. And of course, the industry is interested. Researchers wanted to have data, and the fire equipment manufacturer needs data too to create new equipment for the fire brigades, for the rescuers. And of course, administration like ministries, insurance companies, and national agencies are interested in a lot of data to work on it. And one other important thing is that the international standardization organizations need this kind of data too, to create international standards to make the products we're using, all of them, in a better way and in a safer way. Looking back to the history of fire statistics, I start my overview with the publication named America Burning from the year 1973. This publication showed the first time in human histories a total overview about the fire situation in one of the largest countries of the world. You may remember this was the time when the Americans were fighting in Vietnam, and some of the journalists from the media compared the fire situation in the USA with the situation in Vietnam, and they were saying, looking and hearing that we have more fire deaths in our countries than we lost soldiers in the war in Vietnam. Well, why that has happened, how to deal with this kind of information. And you know, the journalists are working with this kind of information, and in result, a group of experts was founded in the United States, and they're researching the situation about the fires in the USA. And the report was even this report known under the name America Burning. In Europe, some experts working on fire statistics too at that time. Here we should name the Geneva Association of the insurance companies, and they talking about how European countries are looking to the question, to the problem of the fire cost. And there were a very interesting discussion about how many money the European countries are spending for fire safety, even for fire prevention and for the fire brigades. Then the Geneva Association starts to publish booklets about the fire situation called Bulletin of the World Fire Statistics. They have done it all over 35 years. And in result, they're collecting a lot of data regarding the costs of the fire. So there is a special field of interest by the insurance companies, of course, but it should be named, and we should remember the work of these experts. In the next decades, experts from all over the world started to work on fire statistics because every one of them need fire statistics to create the special field of their research. I will not name here this more in detail, but you can see that experts from the United States, from Japan, and from Europe are working on different special items. In the year 2020, interesting article was published comparing the European fire statistics of all the countries in Europe. It was done by a commission from the United Kingdom, and they were saying that we have a big problem with fires in Europe. And this is not only the problem of the fires in buildings, but a fire problem with the forest fires. And there were the first step to compare the data from all over the European countries and to have an overview, what is the situation on fires in Europe. At the same time, the International Standardization Organization started to try to collect the information about the definitions which were in use in the countries. And they're publishing a report with an overview of the national fire statistics practice. But the only thing is, okay, they have collected the data from around 10 countries, including United States, United Kingdom, Japan, and from one of the African countries, even Kenya. And in result, they have a lot of different definitions. And now the next steps would be to compare these definitions and to make an international standards regarding these definitions. But we are not finished with this work. I think that is a question, this question is still open. In Asia, the International Fire Chiefs Association of Asia started to collect fire statistics tools among their members, and they have the focus, of course, of the member states in Asia. And now you can see that we have the situation that at different points on our planet, different expert groups are collecting and working with the fire statistics data, but it is not the international, the world fire statistics so far. In the year 2018 in Europe, the team of the CTIF statistics centers prepared an article published in Germany in the journal Fire Management about the fire situation in Europe at the beginning of the 21st century. And this was really the first time in Europe that all data from all countries in Europe were collecting. And I show here 3 pictures. You can see here the situation about the distribution, the number of the fires. And the next one show the number of the fire deaths per 100 fires. And the last one is showing you on the map and in the picture, the number of the fire deaths per 100,000 inhabitants. This is what the Center of Fire Statistics called the main fire risk we have. And taking these 3 fire risks together, we can build a mathematical model for the development, for the comparison of the fire situation in the countries for now. We can make a reconstruction from the past, and we can forecasting the situation for the next decades. That is the main point, the result of this research. And the history is not ending. In the year 2020, a group of experts from Europe and from the USA trying to developing a global standard for fire reporting. And this is mainly the description of the current situation we have, but a global fire standard for fire reporting is absent until now. In the year 2020 to 2022, an expert group was invited by the European Commission for a research project named Closing the Data Gaps and Paving the Way for Pan-European Fire Safety Efforts. The Center of Fire Statistics was part of this project, and here very in detail all the mentioned before questions and problems were discussed. And this report in detail is available on the website of the European Commission. I recommend to found this document and to read this information because it is the latest publication regarding the fire statistics in Europe. Once again, in Europe only, it's not the world fire statistics, but it's a very important step. During the last decades, the Center of Fire Statistics publishing every year a report called World Fire Statistics with different information about the fire situations in the countries and in the large cities around the world. Then in the middle, you can see a picture about the book Humanity and Fires. There is the full description about the fire situation and the fire problem we have on Earth. And the last one here is showing information about the problems of the fire brigades in the major cities of the world. So that is what we are doing all the time. Then we have the opportunity to participate in larger book projects, as you can see here. These are the three latest international publications published in Poland and in the United States. And in these books, the Center of Fire Statistics describes in special chapters the situation about the fires in the world and in the large cities of the Earth. So when I talk about the roadmap of the international fire statistics, we should mention three important questions. The first one is, what does the term fire safety include? Because to talk about something without a specialized field, it is not a good way. The second question is, what are the goals of the international fire statistics and what are the most important parameters? This is important because sometimes we face the discussion that people are saying, no, it is impossible to create such statistics. And the other way, we received every time, every day, requests, please help us with information, with the data, what is the situation with fires. So our proposal from the Center of Fire Statistics, or CTF, is to create a roadmap for international fire statistics in that way you can see on this slide. Firstly, we should define the most important stakeholders, the key players, who is interested in the fire statistics and what kind of statistics we need. And I will name only some examples. Of course, fire statistics are important for the development and improvement of the national and local fire service activities. We need the statistics of the fires to understand what fires are, how important they are, and what we can await from the future of these developments. Then, of course, scientists are interested, and we should share information about economic items, what fires bring us in type of damage. And fire statistics are interested to create statistics for educational and training programs, even for the elderly and for the children. How to proceed in this on this roadmap? We are defining, and I hope you can share with us this information, that the most important ideas behind fire statistics should be to, at first, reducing the number of the fires. less fires we have, less problems, and maybe we can make a world free of fires in the near future. I hope so. The second question is to reduce the number of the fire victims. That is the task of the fire brigades, that is the task of the administration in every country, in every city, to do everything to reduce the number of the victims. And the third one is the question about the reduction of the fire damage, the fire losses. How to achieve the main goals of the international fire statistics? At first, we should work on the elimination of the main causes of the fire. Then we should create a stable fire-resistant infrastructure, and we should increase the fire safety situation for children and to elderly people. And we should reduce the environmental impact of the damage of the fires in our countries and cities. There may be more other aspects, but I think when we focus firstly at that aspects I named here, mentioned here, that will be a great step forward. And then the third step is to discuss the question how we can find definitions for the fires by sites. If you read informations in the media, sometimes you have the information there was a fire disaster, a small fire, a middle-sized fire, etc. So there are different terms in use, and we should unify them. The next one is we should have a clear overview about the number of fires by objects. So that means where are most part of the fires? Are the fires in the residential sector? Having a lot of fires in hotels, in schools, etc. And we should define the fire victims. What is a fire victims? This is not only the question about the fire deaths, means the persons dying in the fire. We think that it's important to have a clear picture about the number of injured peoples and the peoples which could save themselves from the fire ground, that we have the full number of all persons affected by the fire. And of course, then we should work on the item fire prevention, firefighting operations, and different other more. To go forward, we have then to answer the question, how should one proceed in order to create this international fire statistics? And the first item, the first task is to determine the clearly defined terms. So we should work on the definitions. What is a fire? What is a victim? What are fire causes, etc. And the second one after this is to establish a uniform procedure for data collection, for data processing, and data analysis. And this will be not doing by themselves. We should think about how to create a training sessions for a elaboration of international guidelines for the training of the personnel working with the fire statistics, even again in the field of data collection, data processing, and data analysis. We should have in mind that it is clear that the first person affecting with the fires and the other question are even the firefighters. And in most countries, especially in Europe, we have volunteer firefighters, and we should give them training programs even to work with this information in a proper way. The next one is the next question is the discussion. How should one proceed in order to create statistics? Maybe we can use database created by an expert team, or we should use a database created by one national agency, or we should create a unified database created by different organizations like the European Union, the United Nations, etc. This discussion is still open. There are different point of views, and it is very hard to discuss with different experts because behind of the fire statistics are interest even by the organizations involved in this project. The other idea was how we can use historical experiences by different countries. On the ways we discussed and finally find there are 3 different possibilities. The first one is that all states or countries adopt the statistical data collecting system of one large country with great experiences, maybe the American system or the system of data collection in Japan. The second one is, okay, maybe we can go to have a mixture of statistical data collecting systems from several countries. It is difficult. Or the third one is to completely use a new type of international statistical system, which should be developed. I mentioned before the European project from the EU regarding fire statistics. Maybe this is one step in the right direction. We will see. And then we should have the clear picture what kind of data we should and would collect it. Some experts saying we should collect all fires which are statistically recorded. The next group of experts is saying we should record and collect the data only from fires with damage about a limit, or we should only collect the fire information with fires with victims, death and injured. So there are statistical point of views. I believe from the point of view of the Center of Fire Statistics of CTF, we should collect all the data, because then we can analyze this information in a deeper way. And if you are interested in some special data, it is not difficult to find, to set a filter to select the needed data. One historical problems we are facing with the data collection is for what period of data collection is defined. You can imagine until now we have still countries that have a national financial year beginning in the middle of the year and ending somewhere. So this problem is open too. So, and this picture is not finished, it is special made. Here we are collecting all the requests, the answers we received from all the countries, and we will still continue work on this item. And of course, everybody hearing and listening this presentation is invited to join us, to participate and bring new ideas into this process of the international fire statistic. And so the road is a long, windy road, and we are on the road and inviting all the experts to come with us and working together. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your presentation, and it is very, very interesting content. The time has passed, but I will address a question to each speaker. The first one will go to Mrs. Bardani, and is how can the problem of evacuation be solved in an easy way for worker, visitors, and so on, for different hazards as earthquake and fire? Just as we know, different management is required in evacuation for this kind of hazards. This is a question for Ilya, and I will ask the question to Peter to catch time. Peter, thank you. Very interesting indeed to hear for CTIF. Would CTIF consider having a benchmark and an audit process process to support members' alignment? Ilya, the floor is yours to answer the first questions.
Yes, I think if I have understood the question correctly, if it is how we can combine all these different risks and to have drills and to have scenarios. So each company has to have prepared in advance an emergency and to have created a risk assessment and to create an emergency booklet, let's say, with all the scenarios that what happened in their premises. Each company knows their hazards, can do a risk assessment and know exactly what kind of risk they will face, and so to prepare to do the proper risk emergency drills and emergency trainings. But also about visitors that might be inside the building. What we can do it is in the entrance of the building in our premises to give a leaflet saying where it's the emergency exit, where there is the assembly point inside our premises, and also always to tell them that they should follow the evacuation team that will help them evacuate the building. So for the visitors that they don't know, they're not trained how to evacuate the building, they will always need to follow the people that they're trained to do so. So for each company, it's something different. You cannot say that everything is for everybody. It's different risk for buildings and offices, different risks for heavy industries, different risk for schools or public areas. However, people, they should do a risk assessment before and prepare a proper emergency, let's say, preparedness booklet and emergency drills.
Thanks a lot, Ilya. Just I repeat the questions. Would CTAF consider having a benchmark and an audit process to support members' alignment? Peter, this is the question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. My answer is as follows. Of course, CTF is interested to create a process like benchmarking among the countries, among the large cities. But here we have the problem that because of the organization of our association, we have mostly volunteer fire brigade organizations included. And for them, it is not easy to handle the question to agree with a benchmark system. That is what we learned from the past. It is so that we creating with our statistical data ranking lists, and sometimes you can trust to believe that the large countries are on the one end of the ranking list and the smaller countries on the other end of the ranking list. That maybe is not the clear picture, and that is not the truth at all. Therefore, as I mentioned in my presentation, we developed a simple mathematical model to analyze the risk of fires in the countries, in the regions, and using even this model. It should be simple and should give the situation that smaller countries looks not better or worse than bigger countries, or in the opposite. It should give us a real picture. And the problem is only the countries having a higher number of fires, a higher number of fire deaths and fire damage, they give us the data. When you have a very small country like Liechtenstein or Luxembourg, you have only a small amount of data, but it is very difficult to compare this data in a proper way, because in the smaller countries, there is no more than one fire death within 10, 20 years. So this is a mathematical statistical problem we have here to creating some kind of benchmarks. So we are thinking about it and we improving this process, but at the end we have not the idea to show the data and put our fingers into this direction and saying, how in your country the fire situation is not good. We will share the information we have. We will compare the information, of course, but we will preparing proposals how to improve the fire situation and how to organize training and sharing experience within the member states. I think that is the way we can do that. Otherwise, maybe many countries will lose the interest participate in this kind of process.
Okay, with this answer, I would like to finish this session. I would like to thank a lot one more time the two speakers for their valuable contribution. Specific comment for the audience, for the participants who didn't take the answers. I will share the questions to the two speakers, and then we will pass the answers to you. We have your personal information. Thank you very much, all of you, especially the speakers and the audience for the active participations. And with these words, we close this session, the first morning session of 15th event.
Thank you.